ever catch yourself defending a relationship that doesn't even exist yet? You're explaining his potential to your girlfriends, justifying his behavior, and in the back of your mind, you're thinking, if he could just get it together, we'd be perfect. Let's go ahead and call it what it is. You're not in love with a man, you're in love with a maybe. If you're new here, I'm Davina Dandridge, author of Brains and Baubles, Do What Works for You, and creator of the Emotional Sophistication Map and the Self-Gut Check Method. This is where high functioning women learn to think clearly, lead emotionally, and stop over giving in relationships that don't lead anywhere. Today, we're talking about love level 3, the one where you stay not because he's right, but because the fantasy is. And just so you know, I'm not a therapist. I'm not here to diagnose anything. I'm a woman who has lived through this, who knows what it's like to talk yourself into believing someone is your person because it's easier than admitting you've been showing up in a relationship all by yourself. See, I've said this before. I don't believe most women stay because they don't have standards. I think they stay because they've already emotionally committed to this particular outcome. You visualize your life with him, the trips, the inside jokes, the glow up that you have to become a power couple. You've already decided that this connection is worth the work, but you're the only one doing the work. And you start acting like an emotional assistant in your own life because you're managing his needs, editing yours down so you don't make the relationship difficult, you make it easy to maintain. And that's not emotional intelligence. You're doing a performance to keep love in your life. Let's bring in some psychology here. Projection is a defense mechanism. It's where you assign your own traits, your desires, and your ideals into someone else. So if you're empathetic, if you're ambitious, if you're self aware, you'll assume that he is too because you like him. You'll think that he's just not there yet. And with just a little bit of help, with a little bit of patience and time, he'll become who you want him to be in your head. He didn't sign up to be the person in your head. You assigned him to that role. And now you're mad that he's not playing well. And you've invested all of this time in this relationship and you're not getting what you want out of it. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. Not every relationship is supposed to last forever. And some people were only meant to show you who you no longer needed to be or what you no longer want. The season taught you something, and you got to look back and look at the lesson. But it doesn't mean that it deserves your whole life. Just because you invested that time doesn't mean that it has to be all of your time. I worked with a woman once who said, but he's trying. I can see his heart. And I asked her, do you see his heart more than you see your own needs? And she got quiet. She didn't have anything to say to that. And I knew what that silence meant because I've been there before. There was a time that I believed in someone so much that I lost my grip on reality. I ignored what was right in front of me because I was committed to what I thought was coming up on the other side of the hill, on the other side of the rainbow, after we did this thing or after this certain point in time. But potential doesn't build relationship. Participation in the relationship builds it. Here's your question for this week. Where have I been loyal to a version of someone that never actually showed up? You thought you had this guy, but you knew in the back of your mind it wasn't. He wasn't him. Think about that. Where have you waited on emotional maturity that was never promised? Where have you convinced yourself, well, he's been through a lot? As if being through a lot is the same thing as emotionally available. Here's one small action I want you to take today. Write down a list of emotional qualities that you need in a relationship, not the traits that he could grow into. not his potential. I mean, what you need to feel seen, to feel safe, respected, and emotionally at peace. And then ask yourself, has this person ever consistently provided any of this to me? And if not, you're not in a relationship. You're in a rehearsal for a real relationship. If this video landed for you, hit like so I know. Comment below what's one emotional red flag you've ignored because you wanted to believe in someone. And if you're ready to move on with emotional clarity, go to davinadandridge.com and take the Emotional Sophistication Map. It'll show you exactly where you're overfunctioning and what that behavior is really costing you. Next week, we're talking about high functioning woman burnout, why emotional responsibility becomes your identity, and how to unravel that with grace. You're not being picky, you're being honest. And when you get honest about what you feel and what you carry and what you actually want, that's when love starts to feel real and not like a burden. And that's not weakness, that's self-trust. And self-trust is emotional sophistication.